Hello friends, my name is Shayla and today I'm here to finish wrapping up my reading for the month of April. In the month of April, I gave myself a challenge to read 30 novels in 30 days. I am happy to let you guys know that I let that happen. I did read 30 novels in 30 days. I will never challenge myself to do that again. It was a little too intense and a little too much pressure for me. If it happens organically because I'm just reading a ton, that's fine. But I'm never going to challenge myself to read a novel a day in the future. I just can't overwhelm myself that way anymore. Before we get too far into this video, well, sorry, didn't mean to bump you there. Let's go over my statistics for the entire month. I only do this in the last wrap up for the month. So yes, so in the month of April, I read 30 novels, 33 volumes of manga, 5 audiobooks, for a total amount of pages for the month of 17,649, for a yearly total of pages at 57,478. On the manga demographics, I read 8 volumes of shonen manga, 6 volumes of seinen manga, 7 volumes of shoujo manga, and 12 volumes of josei manga. I am always intrigued by my statistics every month. I always learn a little bit more about my reading tastes and see how much I'm pushing myself outside the norm on these. So let's dive into everything else. Since we last did a wrap up, there's quite a bit that I've read. So we're going to start this video off with the novels and then we are going to jump into the manga because I do have both for this section. So first up, I wanted to mention that I did participate in the round of Smutathon that was 2 days in the end of April. I will leave that vlog linked for you. I did read 5 titles over those 2 days. So like I said, if you want my detailed thoughts on anything that I read during that period of time, the vlog where I talk about it all is linked. So you can definitely check that out. And throughout this video, I will be linking other videos in which I wrap up things that I read. First on the list of novels, we have Infinity, which is by Sherilyn Kenyon. This is book 1 in the Chronicles of Nick series. Now, Nick is a series that we know from Sherilyn Kenyon's Dark Hunter series. We follow Nick Gaucher as a teenager in this series, and this does directly tie in to the Dark Hunter series. There's some overarching things that are definitely tied into this series, so I'm really interested to see how they're all going to tie in. I gave this 4 stars. I enjoyed it, and mostly just because I enjoy the Dark Hunter world and Nick Gaucher as a character. So it's really just interesting. It takes place in New Orleans, and I really just enjoy the series for what it is. And this is just a really fun YA version of the Dark Hunter's world. I mean, this one doesn't have all the smutty elements that the Dark Hunter series does, and the romance per novel. We're only following Nick Gaucher through the series, but it has bigger implications in the overarching Dark Hunter world. And it's really interesting. I'm really intrigued. I'm definitely going to be continuing. I'm probably going to get on Book Outlet and see if I can find any more of these because I really want to keep going. Next up, we have Starlight Bridge by Debbie Mason. Starlight Bridge is a really fun romance that takes place in the Harmony Harbor series. And I don't remember if I talked about this one already, but we're talking about it now. In this one, let me make sure I'm talking about the right couple because this is not the only Harmony Harbor book I read this month. Yes. So in this one, we're following Griffin and Ava. Their story is really sweet. I genuinely enjoy Debbie Mason's romances. They're usually low on the smut level, but the romances are really sweet and usually have another element to it. It's not just a romance. There's usually something else that they're tackling within the story. So I enjoy them. They're definitely fun. Highly recommend. And then last but not least for the novels, we have Havenfall by Sarah Holland. This was the last buddy read that Lindsay and I did for the month. And this one was just okay. I'm giving it a 3-star. I felt like this one was very rushed for a fantasy, especially considering they're splitting the story into at least 2 books. I felt like they rushed way too much of this. I would have appreciated 100 pages longer and to have it more fleshed out if they were going to split it into at least 2 books or just a bigger tome with the entire story. Because I feel like where we left off, it felt very unsatisfying. By the end, I was left with a lot of questions still, but I don't know if I want to continue. That's kind of the fence that I'm on right now. It was fine. It didn't necessarily do anything wrong. I just felt like the pacing was off and there wasn't enough information. So I think that's kind of my biggest complaint about this one. I've read worse, for sure, but this just felt very average in the middle, stayed in its lane, but I wanted more from it. That's kind of the easiest way to explain my thoughts on this one. All right, so let's dive into the manga that I read in the last part of the month. I've got a couple of physical and then a couple of digital as well. So the first one we're going to talk about is BL Metamorphosis Volume 1. This series is so entirely sweet. We primarily follow Ichinoi, who is a woman in her 70s who is lonely, and her spouse has passed away, and she goes to go, I think, get coffee at like her favorite place with her husband, and it was closed. They were closed permanently, so they're not open anymore. And she had walked so far that she decided to find somewhere to cool off because it was a really hot day. She ends up stumbling into a bookstore, and on an end cap type thing, there are some BL titles. And so she picks up one because the title looks cute. And she goes to check out, and the gal who checked her out notices and asks if she wants a bag for it. And the little old lady says, no. And from there, the bookshop teenage girl and this 70-plus-year-old woman form a friendship centered around boys love manga. And this was probably one of the sweetest and most pure manga I've ever read. The BL series that she's reading, you get glimpses of throughout the story, and so that when the two are talking about what's happening, you understand bits and pieces of it as well. And it's just so sweet. This one is very much slice of life, slow paced, not going to be action packed by any means, but it is just so sweet. I definitely going to be continuing on with this one. This was a solid 4, has the potential to become a 5-star series for me. But this introductory volume was really great. I really enjoyed the art. I thought the art was really sweet and really fun. So I do recommend checking out the series as a whole, as I think it's going to just be fantastic for anybody who tries it. The other physical one that I have is the Omnibus 2 of Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. This manga, oh my gosh, this manga is very different from the film in a lot of ways, but I appreciate and respect the differences. And I have to say, I love Nausicaa so much more in the manga than I do in the film, and I really enjoy the film, so that says a lot right there for you. I do plan on doing a dedicated manga versus film, a book to movie comparison, essentially, of the manga versus the anime. And so expect that coming on the channel soon. I'm just finishing gathering up my thoughts. I might actually read parts of the end again to make sure that I've got my notes correct. And yes, so highly recommend checking out the manga. You can get them in, I think you can still find them in other formats than this. This is a little bit bulky and heavy, so unless you're sitting at a desk to read it, it can get hard to hold just because of the weight. But I did just fine reading it in this edition, so personal preferences aside, I enjoyed this. I also read some review volumes while we are at this. So let's talk about the first one that I think will be the most controversial for my opinion, and that is Ping Pong Volume 1. I gave this one a 3 stars. I didn't hate it, but this was also one that didn't grab me like I hoped it would. I've really been enjoying sports anime recently, so I thought I would try out Ping Pong. And it was fine. I think the biggest thing for me is I was not enjoying the art style. For me, the art style felt a little clunky. I didn't enjoy certain aspects within the characters either. There was one character who was purposely losing these ping pong matches, and that was really irritating to me. And this one wasn't for me. I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy this, and I can see why Zach from Uchu Shelf, who talks very prominently about ping pong, really enjoyed this. But for my personal taste, it is just not for me. And I wanted to still try it. I like to try different demographics and try different things. But this one was just not in my wheelhouse. This one, I just feel kind of meh about it personally. But I do think there are going to be a lot of people who love this. And I can understand why Viz is going through publishing it in, you know, these big editions. They're going to be omnibuses at least, because the review copy was over 500 pages. So they're going to be beefy. I don't know if they're going to be hardback. They might be, but they're going to be beefy at least. So the people who are excited about it are definitely going to be very excited. And like I said, it wasn't necessarily a bad series. It just was one that wasn't for me. The next one I'm going to talk about is Beastars Volume 6. I was able to get an early copy via NetGalley. All of these early copies I got via NetGalley. Thanks to Viz for loving to approve when I want to read manga. So in Beastars Volume 6, as you guys know, when I read Volume 5, I was feeling very on the fence about the direction of the series. I'm much more okay with the direction of the series now. I feel like in Volume 6, there's a pivot in the story. I feel like the first 6 volumes, you're really just kind of establishing characters and relationships between the characters and setting up some reasons for them to be interacting. From here forward, I think we're really going to have a very different kind of story. And I'm actually looking forward to that. The end of this ties back into the beginning of the story, the beginning of Beastars, where one of the classmates is murdered. And so I feel like we're getting a bit more of a tie-in by the end of Volume 6. And it's going to be really interesting to see where we go from here. I'm definitely looking forward to continuing on with the series. And I was considering dropping the series at the end of Volume 5. But now that I've read Volume 6, I'm going to stick it out because I'm really interested in the direction it's headed. The other thing to know about Volume 6, basically the content that's within the anime that's available on Netflix, you get all of that content by Volume 6. There's some additional things within Volume 6 that you don't see in the anime, but you will have the entire anime by Volume 6. So if you don't see the anime coming back for a year or two because of everything going on in the world, it's okay. The things moving forward within the manga are definitely not in the anime. So the anime basically covers Volume 1 through halfway through Volume 6 is the easiest way to kind of put it all together, now that I've watched both and have thoughts. So if you want to hear thoughts on both of them, let me know in the comments down below and I'll do that video for you. And then the last volume of manga that we're going to talk about right now is Spy Times Family Volume 1. Again, provided a digital arc via NetGalley through Viz. And this series is really interesting. So we're following a man who's a spy. And he's been given a specific mission. And for this mission, he needs to have a child enrolled in this prestigious academy. And to do so, he ends up going to an orphanage and adopting this little girl who happens to, like, be a super child and has specific powers. I won't tell you what, because that's a little bit of a spoiler. And then he ends up coming across this woman to pose as his wife. So they kind of form this fake family for the sake of the mission. And it's really interesting to watch what happens throughout the volume. I feel like not everyone is going to love this series. Like, some people are going to be really irritated at the whole fake found family plot, but I ended up really enjoying this. I gave it a solid 4. I do think this series could go one of two ways. It's either going to go like the comedy route or it's going to go like this really cool way. And I'm hoping for the really cool way, obviously, but this is one where I'm definitely going to take it volume by volume, but I'm really enjoying the start to the series and I will see where things go from there. And I do believe this is available through the Viz app already. I'm not 100% sure, but that is definitely something to put on your radars. This one's releasing in June and I think it's going to be a good time. I'm definitely going to be collecting it because I enjoy the dynamics that are given me within this first volume. So I'm going to keep going for the time being. So guys, that is all of the things that I read in the month of April. You can check the card symbol. Everything else that I've read through the month, all the wrap-ups and vlogs and such, will be available to you there. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you are new to my channel, welcome. I would love it if you would subscribe and click the little bell so you know when I put new videos. And again, thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next one.